Suns fans, you know what time it is in the PHX.
Empire of the Suns.
Phoenix Suns.
Empire of the Suns.
If you're listening live, hello, this is Arizona Sports at Night. If you're listening on a podcast service, I'm going to ask you, which podcast feed are you on? Because you could be on the Arizona Sports at Night podcast feed. Here in the whole 2 hours of the show, we leave the timestamps in there, so if you're here for Cardinals talk, you can go find the Cardinals talk. If you're here for ASU talk, you can go find that ASU talk. We're going to have a lot of Suns talk on the show, and we're going to put that on the Empire of the Suns feed as our podcast for the week, so you could be hearing this on Empire of the Suns. So, hi.
Kind of a cheat, but I'm not going to call it a cheat. We work hard enough. This counts. This is our podcast, too.
It is similar to the conversation we would have had on our podcast anyway, and that's where we're going to begin, buddy. The preseason is done. The real deal is coming forward. The Suns lose in OT, 128-122. Dalton Connect adds 35 minutes to my work day and everyone else's work day there by hitting a three with 5 seconds left, scoring 30 of his 35 points after the first half. But that was not the biggest takeaway. The biggest takeaway was that we saw the starting lineup for the first time. The Phoenix Suns went with Jusuf Nerkic after he missed the majority of the preseason due to a left middle finger injury. He starts, of course, with Tyus Jones, Bradley Beal, Devin Booker, and Kevin Durant. Let's just start really broad and start there, Kevin. What'd you think of the look?
Nothing surprising, I would say. I think individually, I took a lot away from, okay, Nerk hasn't played in the preseason. We saw what would you call them, the offseason hype vids. He looked good. He looked in shape. The taking it coast-to-coast play, obviously, just his movement. The shot looks good. I think that's where I was kind of pumping the brakes on Nerk taking like 5 threes a game. I don't know if that's going to get even close to that, but it seems like if you even said 2 a game, that might be a stretch, but it looks like that's going to be the case, and that's going to really change how this team looks. And we've talked about it a little before on our podcast and stuff, and I'm sure every show on this station has talked about it, but just his role in this and his evolution as a player, even though he's kind of an older player, established guy.
Here's Devin Booker last night post-game on how Nerkic taking more threes is helping the offensive flow.
So much. I think it opens up a lot of driving lanes. I think it pulls the other big, the rim protection away from the hoop. And then he can make plays out of that position too. It doesn't always have to be a shot. I know you see Olson doing it. He'll catch it right away, go to a dribble handoff. So, there's a lot of options to it.
One more from Jusuf Nerkic on shooting threes in this new system.
I think it's good, especially the Bud and coaches and players. They're really on me, giving me full confidence I can shoot many threes as I want as far as spacing-wise. But like I said, my goal is just to be out there and try to play the game.
Yeah, and I think you're spot on with the point here because we all get excited and Suns fans will get excited about Nerk taking threes and the effect that it's going to have on the offense. But there's a healthy balance here. And look, do you remember, and I reference this all the time on our podcast, that game 6 or 7 in the bubble for OKC when Lou Dort took like 14 threes? It's because Chris Paul was on him. Shoot the ball, Lou. Shoot the ball, Lou. And what did Lou do? He listened to Chris Paul and he kept shooting the ball. Was that the best offense for OKC? It was not, because Lou was not shooting the ball well at all until he went nuclear in, I want to say game 6 or game 7 for them in that first round playoff series. Nerk's healthy balance is somewhere around 2 to 3 attempts, maybe 4. And I think the good thing that you actually saw was not so much hesitation, just as him going this isn't the one, and just kind of kept it going. Because if he takes the 3 every time he's open, he's going to take 7, 8, 9 a game. And unless he is a 38, 39% three-point shooter and has a career year from there, he's not really going to be there. The average three-point percentage for a big goes down drastically. Around league average right now is going to be maybe even 39% this year, which is crazy because it was 35 just a couple of years ago. But for a big, it's typically around there 34, 35, 36%. Nerk in his year with Portland 2 years ago was around that 36 mark. He was taking a little bit around 2 to 3 a game. I think that's what you can expect. And it's more about what Book said and the threat there, because I think when Nerk would catch that ball out there and he wouldn't shoot it, it offered the defense a chance to reset. Even though Nerk as a playmaking hub was a guy you could run DHOs with and all that kind of stuff and just get offense out of it still, it allowed the defense to kind of slow down. Whereas there, if he gets the ball now, they have to be a lot more reactive.
And I think it was super important to get him in that one preseason game, even though they pulled the starters late in that fourth quarter of a tight game, because you saw the really gray area of what's a good shot, what's not, or just like his decision making. There was one where he did pass up a three, I think, on the right wing. They swung it like 4 times, and it gets to KD for an open three, like in the left-hand corner. And that was an also really good play where it's like, yeah, Nurk could have taken that shot, but he's going to be selective. And that was a really good example of, okay, we don't need you to chuck per se, but we need you to just at least think about it or at least pump fake and see where the defense is and how it's reacting. So I think just having that going into the regular season was super important for this team to have all the guys together pretty much.
And we saw some of what Mitch and I talked about on the show yesterday, which was that the Suns are in this 1 game in 9 days gap, and now they don't have a game until Wednesday when the regular season starts for them. This is a thing for every team coming off of either today on Friday when the preseason play ends for a lot of teams, or even yesterday or Wednesday. They have this time where they have to wait, and in that waiting, you cannot lose your conditioning. So the Suns took advantage of this opportunity. Booker got 28 minutes. Beal got 30. Durant got 31. There was this awkward moment where the Lakers pulled their starters that were out there. They didn't have LeBron. They didn't have a couple of other guys who weren't out there anymore because of minutes restrictions. And then the Suns starters weren't really able to pull away, and then they were only up 2, and then Budenholzer wisely pulled his guys as well just to avoid some kind of awkward situation happening that really wouldn't benefit anyone. It was a lose-lose situation at that point. Here's Coach Bud on his goal of getting those starters to around 30 minutes in this game.
Yeah, no, we hope to get the guys, up around 30 minutes, hope to get them playing some fourth quarter minutes. So I think that was, very close to what we hoped for. So I think for those guys to get up at that 30-minute mark and start getting ready for regular season and what's coming.
Ryan Dunn with 3 points in 20 minutes, 1 of 3 from 3. He did have 4 rebounds as well. 6 fouls. That's just not his fault. That's my fault because I asked him about the difference between the whistle that he's maybe noticed so far in the preseason with physicality and then the difference for him between having that extra foul and if it's going to affect him. And then he jokingly said, well, I hope to never get myself in that situation to find out. And then he immediately does because of my stupid question. So again, that's on me. Not a coming back down to earth game for Ryan Dunn, to be clear, but just you're going to see more of those types of results. He's not going to hit 3 or 4 threes a game. It's going to be more that he took 3 or 4 shots. Most of them were from 3. He didn't really grab that many rebounds or have that many assists or whatever, but he defended his butt off, and wouldn't you know it, he was plus 15 in this game because of that defense.
6 fouls, 2 turnovers, like a steal, 4 rebounds. So, yeah, it was funny that you have a plus 15 in, only 20 minutes. So, yeah, not the shooting game that we've seen in the 4 prior, but yeah, another good performance for him. Some defensive plays that aren't going to show up in the box score. I thought the rotations for the most part in this game went as I would have expected. How did you see that as far as, Beal was the first, key, I guess, big 3 guy back in. He honestly we can maybe talk about him more later if we have time, still looking for rhythm.
We can talk about that right now.
Yeah. I think honestly, probably the biggest question is I don't think he had a good preseason. I don't know if that matters for a veteran like him, but it's something to watch.
Yeah, he was 4 of 15 in this game. He had 4 assists, 5 turnovers, 4 rebounds, 13 points in 30 minutes. Brad is the type of guy, and we've learned this already just with the short time we've been around him, watching him on the floor. I think everyone knows that in interviews, he is the one to say something more often than not and provide the insight there on really what's going on or really how they're feeling. I think the one that was really indicative of that was some win that they had on the road, and he joined the Suns post-game show itself on TV, and they were like, hey, Brad, congrats on the win. And then he was like, I don't want to address that as even a win. The way we played in the fourth quarter, we almost gave that game away. He will show it on the floor when he is frustrated in the moment. He had it felt like he was finally going to get a break in the game when he had a leak out and he was going to catch the pass and then laid up with his left hand, and then he lost the ball and then he held up his left hand for 15 seconds as are you serious? That really just slipped off my hand. I caught him coming out of the locker room on his way home and just asked him about frustration or anything like that. And he was like, it's preseason, man. He was laughing it off and just saying no, I'm good. I asked about flushing it and he's like, I don't even really have to flush that type of game. We're good. And he confirmed that he came out unscathed because he was on the floor in that game plenty, and then he got undercut on a three again.
Did he fall on the ball once?
There was that too. Yeah, he was just kind of all over the place. But I agree, it wasn't a good preseason for him, and I think that if there were any members of the Big Three that we wanted to see have a great preseason, it was him. But it's three guys who have been in the league forever, and it's preseason. So I'm not going to go there yet. But if we're like 4 or 5 games in and it still looks like he's getting his sea legs, like you don't have time right now. Like he's got to get going. All that continuity that they were supposed to build up last year has to carry over to this year for him. And I think that it will, but I'm going to keep repeating it on this show and then on our podcast too over the course of the year. And I did it last year. He has by far the most difficult job on this team out of anyone. And that's even with a point guard now in the rotation.
One thing about that too is they are not actually using Tyus Jones as the play initiator as much as I thought they would. They are giving the other guys still, hey, off a rebound, if you're the closest guy, you bring it up. That's something to watch. Not that it's a bad or good thing. It's just something that I think to me is more surprising, but it has a lot to do with the pace, right? Like they're trying to get you up before, even 5 seconds is gone, get into the play, get into the action. So that was another thing that kind of stood out, especially in this last game where it looked like they were going full regular season mode for at least 43 minutes of the whole thing. So yeah, but Tyus Jones still 5 assists, 3 steals, got 11 points, picked his spots well. Even he's playing well without the ball. So I think that's another thing to watch when we say, oh, well, where's Beal's touches going to come? Where Book and Kate, they're going to have enough touches, I think, in this offense. And that's another positive sign where Tyus Jones does not need to have the ball in his hands either.
I'm glad that the entire city didn't riot after they finished with a regular amount of three-pointers through 4 quarters. It wasn't 47 or 51 or anything ridiculous. It was in the low 30s. They finished with 36. Again, it's going to happen. They're going to have some games where they have 45. They're going to have some games when they have 25. It's all about landing somewhere in the middle more consistently. And that's something that I think that they are going to do. We have this tradition where we will preview the Suns season along with the NBA season in a lot of ways because we love talking just basketball in general, but especially NBA going beyond the Suns. And we have these conversations in a couple of different ways, but what we've been sticking to the last couple of years and we'll do here again, as well as the written content that will come with this, we'll have the discussion right now and just... One, do you believe that the Suns are a contender? Let's just start there with, do you believe they qualify as someone who could contend for a championship this year? And 2, how do you feel about where we are in terms of the NBA pecking order? Because you and I grew up on Cavs Warriors, Lakers Spurs in the Western Conference Final, Lakers Spurs. Like we just grew up on Bulls. It was just these dynasties that would emerge for the last couple of years. That has not really been a thing anymore. Some people believe the Celtics might be starting that. Where do you stand on that for the league as a whole and where the Suns fit into it?
I think it's as wide open as ever, and we will, in a later segment here, go over our picks for the NBA Finals and such. But
get ready for us to be wrong about a lot.
I think it's wide open, to be honest. I don't think the Celtics are favorites. Like, I'm looking at their roster right now, like, running it back, great. Things can go wrong. Things didn't go wrong for them last year very much, even though like Porzingis got hurt, all that stuff. I just see a lot of teams, and it might be 9 deep of guys of teams that I think are in the contender space. I will say that. So that kind of answered your question about the Suns.
So I see it as open as well. I think that the Celtics are the most complete team of all the teams, and I will add a caveat that I think this second most complete team is in their conference as well. I think it might be the Knicks. The only reason I don't say the Thunder is because you know this and the listeners of our pod know this. I'm a huge playoff experience guy. So the people saying Wemby is a top 10 player in the league already, I haven't even seen him play in the playoffs yet. Now, will he be awesome in the playoffs? Yeah, he's probably going to be awesome in the playoffs. But I like to see the example I provide all the time is Steph in that series when he was young against the Spurs and lost. But we all saw it there. We were like, whoa, like this kid is going to be special. And he was. I say kid, and Steph's older than me, but you understand the vibe. And let's go over the Western Conference. So I need Suns fans to temper their expectations when I lay this out because they're going to be way more optimistic about the West in about 75 seconds. But again, everyone temper your expectations. The Oklahoma City Thunder, in my opinion, failed expectations last year. I think that they hit the second round and got an ultra-winnable series, and I thought Shea did not play well in that series. I thought Jalen Williams did not play well in that series. I thought Chet Holmgren did not play well in that series. Young players in their first postseason, that happens the majority of the time, but there is a little bit of like, okay, let's see you guys prove it on the biggest stage, get that experience under your belt, does help. So they're still a relatively young team. That is going to be the if or the asterisk on them going forward. Minnesota explains itself, had a complete awesome identity. You cannot just put Julius Randle into a team that has its own identity and then just be the same team again. You're going to be different. Now, they could actually be a better version of what they once were, but that's going to take time. Now, does it take 3 months or does it take a whole year like it did with Gobert, like it's taking with the Suns right now, like it took with the Mavs that year before as well? We'll see. Denver, way less deep, and now are really relying on their 3 guys around Nikola Jokic to be not only really good, but healthy. Like if Jamal Murray misses 25 games, what happens here? They'll win 50 games because they've got Jokic, but are they going to be up there in the 1 or 2? Like if one of those guys gets hurt in the playoffs, they're in trouble. Dallas is probably the safest bet out of these 4 teams, I would say. But there's the Kyrie volatility and there's the kid volatility. I was betting on that happening last year. It went the opposite way where they got hot, but I'm always trepidatious about them. And then you've got the Suns. So I think that there is an opening there for sure in the ways where those Nuggets teams last year and 2 years ago were the big bad wolf in your path. I don't got no wolf, not the Timberwolves either.
Yeah. The Suns, I think, are right there. They have their question marks. Are they going to be a defensive team in, let's say, top 15 to make them maybe a top 5 team if their offense is as good as we think it could be? I don't know. Going through these again, Dallas, does PJ Washington shoot lights out like all season long? Was that a one-off through the playoffs? I just still don't see the firepower. Derek Jones Jr., I think, was a big loss for them.
Clay looked good off the bench, but
yeah, I don't know.
The knees don't look so good.
T-Wolves, I got spacing issues with Julius Randle not being Cat, but also, like, do they have the supporting cast to make up for that?
Cat was quietly a good defender on that team.
Yeah.
Can Randle do that? He just came from a tip system, so probably, but...
Yeah, Thunder, I think, you already went over, it's just an experience thing. I love that roster. But you can go deeper even if you want to say, okay, Grizzlies, I love their coach. I love their roster at the top. I don't know if it has the depth. If you're, hey, Jake LaRavia is going to be really good off the bench guy, then and sell me on that, then maybe I can give you that. But they're in that position, right, where, by the way, like Gigi Jackson already going to miss like a month or 2, I believe. Okay. I think Vince Williams was hurt recently as well. They're already dealing with injuries, and they can't do that again. Yeah, and they have even like 7 deep are really good, but they got to be healthy. Lakers, Warriors, that's I don't even know if we're going to even talk about them. And then I think Pelicans are worth a mention with DeJounte Murray's really good, but they don't have a center, as you've pointed out on our podcast. Like, is Zion going to be healthy and playing center? I have no idea.
It's Yves Missy, the rookie out of Baylor, who we liked in the pre-draft process and liked the evaluation on him. But for him, the big thing on him was that he's raw. And so, like,
Daniel Tyus, I think, is on the roster.
Daniel Tyus is the other center, and that's it. Like, you can't just fully go into that. You can do what they're doing, but you have to have the perfect guys for it. And at least defensively, I think they do. But the Brandon Ingram, CJ McCollum part of the equation is a little nutty. Everyone strap in and lock in right now because we're going to do something a little crazy. We're just going to be firing names at you. We're going to be naming a bunch of players, but it's a good way for us to bounce around a bunch of different teams and give you some of our thoughts. These are either swing players, players we're interested in, players we're watching. These can come from contenders, teams kind of in the play-in mix, or even guys on terrible teams. A couple from me. I think Ja is an obvious one. This weird hierarchy thing happened where Ja was the one appealing to the kids. Everyone had his jersey. He had all the commercials, all this kind of stuff. Then he has everything happen last year, and Ant's like, mine. That's mine now. I get to be that guy now. And it's Ant is that star now. It's easy to forget how incredible Ja is. Like, he should make first team All-NBA this year. And I say that knowing the other guards like Jalen Brunson, like Shea. He is that good of a player. And in his draft class, Zion is in the same picture for me with New Orleans. He quietly had a really, really good, consistent season for New Orleans. He wasn't fantastic or superb, but he was really good. He had that game against the Suns where I was like, oh my God, it's happening. Zion's here, and then he gets hurt in the play-in. But he was really on his way to like establishing himself, and I really hope that we see that just cementing his place. And then one more guy I'll mention in the West before getting back to you. I'm listing the entire Timberwolves bench because if their bench is as good as I think it could be, they could still win 60 games. I picked them to win 60 games before the trade. After the trade, I'm not so sure, but I'm a huge Naz Reid guy. You know this going back to the 2018 draft. I love Dante DiVincenzo. We loved Terrence Shannon as a prospect there. They've got him there. Rob Dillingham is there. They've got a little bit of Joe Ingles stuff there, the random Joe Ingles games where he'll have 7 assists and 6 threes. They'll get some of that going there.
Nikhil Alexander Walker.
Your boy, Nikhil Alexander Walker. I think that their team is so deep still, and especially with the addition of Dante, that even the drop-off from Cat to Julius Randle might not matter a ton. I am going to spoil my pick here going ahead. I'm picking Dante for 6th man of the year.
Ooh.
I think that he's going to start to maybe take even more minutes than Conley, and he's going to have a big-time year. I think he's going to go. Who are some other guys for you?
I mean, we kind of talked about Ja. I think he has so much to prove, just like as a human being type stuff, that I think he's a big one to watch because he can take that team and jump them right back into it, as awful as their season was last year. I mentioned PJ Washington. I guess we should go to New York, and look.
Have you seen?
What?
Have you seen the developments?
The developments of Karl Anthony Towns there?
Mikel's hitch is back.
Oh, yeah.
Remember
Where
Mikel's hitch?
Anthony Edwards got caught on a hot mic talking about his shot changed.
Jamal was like a sophomore in high school when Mikel's hitch was a thing on the Phoenix Suns. It's back, and I'm mildly concerned, but you can name the whole Knicks roster, man. I love that team.
I think Cat has a lot to prove, too.
Yep.
And look, the pressure isn't on those guys, but they got to pick their spots. I don't know if Brunson can carry everyone like that much, and nor should he. But if those guys are at least competent offensively, like they're going to be fine. Like defensively, that team's fine. They're good. I'm not worried about that stuff with Tibbs. So if Mikel and Cat can be what we think they can be ultimately as offensive players, they're in a really good spot. Who else?
You know, when we're doing the draft pod and like I'm not done talking about all the guys I like it, and you just let me go for like the last 5 minutes.
We can't
of the
do
podcast.
that.
No, I'm going to do that right now. Alex Caruso in Oklahoma City. I think Caruso is a really good player, but we have yet to see him on like how good does this look on a contender? I think it's going to look awesome. And guess what? If it looks awesome, Lou Dort and a couple picks gets really interesting. Like I'm looking at Utah, Lauri Markkanen maybe. Like they could really add. Like I've loved Cam Johnson as a fit for them as well. I just think that Caruso, if he is what he is, and I'm already a Case and Wallace guy as well, there's one of those guys becomes expendable, and I think Lou Dort is the most tradable one, or the most obvious one there to trade. I'm listing Clay in Dallas as well, but I'm throwing in Quentin Grimes, who they basically got for free from Detroit, and you're shaking your head because he was legitimately good on the Knicks before those trades and kind of had a down year. Devin Vassell in San Antonio, if he takes like a little bit of a mini leap or just is really good or even just like kind of solid, they've got 3 guys who are pretty good. I'm picking the Spurs to finish above 500 this year. Jonathan Kuminga in the same vein in Golden State where it's Steph and then just a bunch of dudes. But if Kuminga takes another leap like he did last year, we're talking in that same vein again, ×2, Jabari Smith, Reed Shepard, Jalen Green / whoever else you want to mention in Houston. Alperen Şengün is that dude. Is someone else there that dude? I watched Jabari Smith and Jalen Green all year last year. It wasn't another leap from those guys. Those are former top 3 picks there. The Bulls are the Raptors of 2022. Remember the Siakam, Van Vliet, Powell, and like everyone's like, this team's not good. They're going to trade everyone. Like, where's OG Anunoby going? It's a little bit lesser of that, but there's Ayo Dosunmu, there's Kobe White, Zach LaVine, and Nikola. Does anyone want Zach LaVine and Nikola Vucevic? No. Do you want Patrick Williams? Do you want Lonzo? Lonzo's back.
Lonzo, thank goodness.
Lonzo, by the way, would kind of be.
Where's his dad been lately?
No idea, and I think that's probably intentional. I kind of love Lonzo on the Suns here if he can stay healthy there. It's like a trade target, just to mention that. And then one more for you. The player that reminds me the most of Russell Westbrook since Westbrook came in the league, Devin Carter on the Kings. He's my favorite rookie in this class. I think he's awesome. You got any more you want to rattle off before we go?
I want to see an Evan Mobley leap in Cleveland because I don't know what the Cavs are, honestly, but he needs to decide he's an alpha type scorer, aggressive guy, I think, for them to take a leap. And he has the talent. He's really good.
And you and I share a trait, I'll call it, with our own John Gambadoro. Gambo is fascinated by substitution patterns. He loves them. He loves looking at the rotations on basketball teams and kind of figuring out who goes where, what the pieces you put together. And I think everyone kind of loves psychoanalyzing those kinds of moves. And that made yesterday's preseason game pretty relevant for us for the Phoenix Suns because Beal plays 30 minutes, Booker plays 28, Tyus Jones plays 25, 31 for Kevin Durant, only 17 for Jusuf Nurkic as he works his way back into play. Grayson Allen did not play. I will say, for as much as one can read into individual pregame work, if you're not familiar, each player will go onto the court anywhere from 3 hours before a game. Chris would do like 3.5 hours before. So it's like I would go to Denver for a playoff game and they let you in earlier than there. And I'd be like, oh, this is when Chris warms up. Because like normally I see him like maybe shoot sometimes, maybe don't. It's like, no, he's just out there in the Ray Allen time, You remember Ray Allen would be shooting and the dancers would be like dancing behind him. That's when Chris would warm up most of the time. Guys go through their work. And Grayson has been out there every time I've seen him, even though he hasn't played since the preseason opener due to Achilles soreness, and also he had some personal reasons to be away. The two kind of combined there, I think. He did his normal standstill, 2-footed dunk under the basket, looked fine, was moving fine, shooting around. So if I had to guess, I would just guess, again, not reporting anything, just guess that he plays Wednesday. All of that being said, he was the only piece missing, which was like, okay, Brad's checking out 5 minutes in, and now he's back in for Book at the 3:20 mark. Like, we're starting to see some pieces come together. What'd you make of how it all kind of meshed together? Because this is a deep team. One of the reasons you and I are high on this team is because it's deep. How'd you like the way the pieces came together, and what kind of stood out to you when they did?
I feel like we're going to see a true, at least to start the season, 9-10 man rotation. Like, the 10th man might get, 5
I proposed
to 7
11
minutes.
in the write-up. Yeah, I think I might even go 11.
And we haven't seen that in a while. Maybe Monty did when they ran to the finals. That you could say it was pretty deep. But, yeah, I'm curious how it's going to work. Like, Grayson's minutes, maybe Royce O'Neal, Monte Morris minutes are cut down from that last preseason game comparatively. But this is going to be interesting because we discussed a lot earlier, around the draft. Okay, Ryan Dunn and Oso Ighodaro both, I think, could make the rotation, the regular rotation to start this season. How do they fit because of the spacing? Neither shoots very well. Ryan Dunn has proved that that's incorrect for the time being. I still want to see it in the regular season for a prolonged period to believe that he's going to be a threat. But yeah, the pieces are going to be super interesting because there's a lot of different intricacies as far as things not exactly fitting perfectly. Do you have that backup point guard for real, or is Beal running the second offense when he comes back in? So, yeah, there's a lot of little things to look at. What kind of stood out for you, I guess?
Mine is a plea to Suns fans who are like, why is Devin Booker still on the bench? Why is KD still on the bench getting back in there? This is your pal Kel looking out for you and warning you ahead of time. Mike Budenholzer likes to keep it tight with the minutes. He likes to keep it tight with the minutes. So just be ready for 11-2 run. Maybe Book should get back. He's going to stick to the rotations and stick to the minutes for the most part. Here's a rundown in Milwaukee. 2018-19. Giannis plays 33 minutes a game. Chris Middleton plays 31 minutes a game. Old friend alert, Eric Bledsoe plays 29 minutes a game. So he had two guys play over 30 minutes a game, and that's it. The next year, Giannis, 30.4. Middleton, 29.9. The next year, as I scroll.
These are leaders.
You open these tabs, and they want to crush so bad. I'm not letting them crash. Middleton, 33 a game. 33 a game for Giannis as well. Drew got up to 32 as well. And then Dante DiVincenzo, who was on the Bucks, he's been around a bit.
Yeah.
He was at 27. I'll keep going, man. 2 years ago, Drew 33, Giannis 33. And then Bud's last year in Milwaukee, Drew played 32.6, Giannis played 32.1. So over that whole Milwaukee tenure that he oversaw, a player never played 34 minutes a game or more. Now, we know KD is usually in the mid-30s. Book is like 36 minimum usually. I'm very curious to see where those numbers sit for those guys because I know for KD especially, that is something with his, not just his contract status, but where he's at in his career. You want to help him maintain as much as you can, and sometimes you have to help him by sitting him a little bit longer than he would like to sit. So this balance is going to be really interesting to me and how much those guys sit. And to your point, I think we're going to go 10 or 11 deep here. We're going to see them go 10 or 11 deep because those minutes are now going to be, you don't have 40 for Book some nights. Like, I don't think that's going to happen that much.
If I look way back in the past and look at how Frank Vogel kind of got to know his roster last year, it was heavy minutes for Book and KD. Obviously, to start the season is because KD was like the only one healthy. But I don't think it allowed the bench guys to really get their roles. Like, they would have, okay, Keita Bates-Diop, you're playing a couple games, and then someone else, not as little, blah, blah, blah. I think this is better because it's like, hey, lots of people are going to get minutes. You need to make an impact with whatever I give you. If it's 5 minutes tonight, you got to go do something. If we add those up through the first 10 games of the season and say you have 100 minutes or whatever the math might be, like, you're still going to get a good indication of how guys are impacting the game, how they fit with different pieces and that kind of thing, and also keeping everyone in a rhythm. So I just think it's, again, not to like put down how Frank did it, because I probably completely agreed with what he was doing then, but I think it's a good way to see what you're going to get from these role players, see what combos work, because you know what KD and Book are going to do, and Beal even to some degree. So I just see it as, playing the long game too. Like, I think all last season we were like, Kevin Durant's going to wear down in the postseason if this keeps up. And like, we didn't really get a chance to say that because everything else is wrong. But like, we want to be able to say like, oh, they missed out on the X seed because you played KD too little, I guess.
Dude, the amount of times we came in and we were like 40, 39, 43, 40 after like a 4-game stretch, we were like, this is not sustainable. He played 37 minutes a game last year. I will say, as recently as the 2021 season in Brooklyn, he played 33 minutes a game. So he has been on the lower side at the age of 32, so perhaps he will be open to a lower allotment. Okay, got the starting 5.
Mm-hmm.
There is not a crisis on the bench, but guess what? Royce O'Neal and Grayson Allen cannot both play 30 minutes a game. They're two players who should get 30 minutes a game. They're that good. I believe in both those guys as basketball players to that degree. Who do you think's getting more minutes out of those two guys?
Grayson, if he's shooting like last year or something close. Royce has looked really good this preseason, just making the right basketball plays, cutting great, actually.
Yeah.
The 3-point shot has to be there, but for that reason, I think Grayson just has the edge because he's, like, if we just say he's a better basketball player, I think. But again, it's going to depend on how good this team can defend. If it's Royce, you need a little more rebounding, a little more of that juice, a little more size, then he is going to get certain matchups and probably get favored based on matchups, I would assume.
Royce last night, 7 points, 8 rebounds, 4 assists in 19 minutes. He was 0 for 3 from 3, but was really good in that game. That's the type of basketball players. I think he's great. I agree with you. I think Grayson will be around like the 25 to 30 mark, and I think Royce will be 17 to 24, depending on the night. The Ryan Dunn part, that's where it gets interesting, because if Ryan Dunn needs to play right away, which it looks like he's going to be in the rotation immediately, he cuts into those guys' minutes. Okay, maybe now you do have time where Tyus or Monte's not on the floor. That's another opportunity to get more wing minutes out there. But I think that at the very least, Ryan Dunn with his preseason play has jumped ahead of Bol in the pecking order. And how I see it is lots of minutes for Booker, lots of minutes for Durant, and lots for Bud is 33, 34, 35, 36, somewhere in that range. I think you'll see Nurk around the 26, 28 mark, which is where we've normally seen him, maybe even a bit lower.
Yeah.
Tyus and Brad around there too. Maybe Tyus lower than Brad. Maybe Tyus
like 28.
In the low to mid-20s, maybe somewhere around there. He was at 25 last night. And then, like we mentioned with Royce and Grayson, they'll be the guys who are heavily played off the bench. You'll sprinkle in Plumlee for those 6 to 7 minutes of rest for Nerkic, and then same will go for Monte. And what they do with the minutes for those two guys is going to be the most interesting, because that's where it's like, okay, go without a point guard. That gets more Dunn minutes. Let's say you like the versatility and how things are flowing. You don't think you need a center out there. Let's run Monstars. Let's go Durant and Bol as your front court instead. Like, you can do some different elements here that could be really enticing and fun with this team. And seeing Budenholzer already embrace this stuff, like we saw the amount of screens Booker was setting in that first Lakers game, it was like, yeah, he gets it. The players get it. They're going to really unlock a lot of stuff with this team.
Can I ask you about Iguodala? Because not to take anything like too seriously, but when you are playing the full rotation, Bol was not in the game basically until kind of the end of the game. Iguodala was playing some 4 alongside Plumlee on the backup, and that obviously Nurk maybe was limited as far as getting back into a groove, so Plumlee's minutes got inflated. So maybe it was just Iguodala, just they wanted to play him and get him more experience, but Do you think he's playing more 4 or 5, and do you think he's in that rotation ahead of Bol, I guess, is what I'm asking.
See, I'll keep it short and succinct on this. Nurkic and Iguodaro did play together. I think that that's a Nurkic spacing, Iguodaro dunker's role / setting the screens. And then on the other side, Iguodaro can take the place as the guy defending the ball screen, or he can defend on the perimeter. Iguodaro is that versatile defensively. It's just another way for you to get sides. I think the Iguodaro minutes at the 5, like that was Jamal and I were talking about it before the show. Like that was an Anthony Davis. Like, yeah, that's what an NBA big man looks like against Iguodaro, and he's a little bit small in that role. But I think that's just an example of how they're going to find Iguodaro minutes. I think they're going to work very hard to still figure out ways to get him time because they want to play him because he's a good basketball player already at this point. Kevin and I'm here with Kevin Zimmerman, who I co-host the Empire of the Suns podcast with. Every year, we'll preview the NBA season, and we talked a lot about the Suns and where they stand in the pecking order of the NBA earlier in the show. If you're just now listening, I recommend Arizona Sports at Night, looking that up on your podcast feeds. We got the timestamps in there. You can kind of look up and see where everything was at and find that segment. But we're going to make some picks right now. We're going to go through all the major awards right now to wrap up the show, all the major NBA awards. We're going to pick the West Finals. We're going to pick the East Finals. And then we're going to pick the Finals. Let's start with MVP, and I want to start here. Kevin Durant and Devin Booker. Do you think there's some dark horse stuff there? Neither of us are going to pick them to win MVP, I don't think, but you're talking to the guy who picked Book to win MVP last year. I thought it was going to happen after the postseason he had. Did not happen. You think there's something there? Because we had that Bill Simmons cut from earlier in the week where he was like, I kind of like putting a little sprinkle on it. What do you think?
I think it would be Durant, and I think that because I think Bud's going to get a really good season out of him. I think Kevin Durant will set a season high in threes taken. His scoring is going to look a lot easier than it did a year ago. He's not going to be forced to play make as much and do the high post, don't pass it over 3 people's arms thing. I just see him like playing really free in this offense. So I think the scoring's going to be there. And if the Suns do, which I'm not discounting at all, I think the Suns have a chance to actually have a really good regular season. I could see him in that mix, yes.
I'll phrase it this way. There is the opportunity for both of them to have these types of defensive seasons where it's like there's a complete two-way effort to get this kind of discussion and this narrative going. Because they are going to need both guys to defend consistently. Like, this is not going to work unless both those guys and Bradley Beal are consistent defensively throughout the year. So that's where I think there's a little bit going there. Not the pick for either of us, though, for MVP. Who you got?
Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, because I'm high on the Oklahoma City Thunder.
Just based on the pattern of what you see from the typical like 1 seed type of thing. Like, I am with you, and Shai is also my pick. We didn't go over these with each other before.
Yeah, these are all surprises for us.
It would be embarrassing if we had the same. We'll have the same Rookie of the Year pick, I imagine, but that's where we'll kind of buzz around a little bit. But yeah, I'm expecting high 50s for wins, and I think that it's actually going to be. I would not be surprised if there was only one other team in the West that won 50-plus games. I think it's going to be more of like everyone's going to win like 39-44. It's going to be one of those years. Like I tweeted this yesterday when the Kawhi news broke. Like, someone is going to have to win 30 games besides the Blazers and the Jazz. It's just going to happen. Now, the Spurs are a good candidate to do that. I understand that. The Jazz, surprisingly plucky back-to-back years. I always say it, like they just tanked in the last dozen games of the year. They've done it 2 straight years. I expect them to probably do it again this year, but someone else is going to drop it. It was Memphis last year. It's going to happen for someone, but I think that OKC is going to have such a dominant year, and I thought Shai, deservedly so, was a major MVP candidate last year, and I think that he's just got to have a similar-ish year, and now that OKC has more of a platform, and they're just more widely recognized and everyone understands, like Shai is one of the 5 or 6 best players in the game, they're going to be good. So I think that he will win the award.
Yeah, I think it was last year. Just Luka had so much momentum, known figure, known name, and then the Thunder really just how they're constructed. He is not going to get as much credit, I think, just because it's more of a team-based, how their offense and all that stuff works. So I think that's why, and he really should have been more in the conversation last year.
Rookie of the Year, who we got?
Reed Shepherd for the Rockets.
Oh, you're buying into the hype. Okay, interesting. So this draft, if you're not familiar, was one where it's going to be one of those where the 3 best players or 5 best players in the draft are going to be anywhere. Like, it could be the 16th, 32nd, 45th undrafted first, third. Like, it could be anywhere. Like, you're saying that after the draft. Usually you say that after a year or two. Like, you look at 2017, and it's Fultz, Lonzo, Tatum, and Jackson. It's going to be probably one of those types of drafts. And Reed Sheppard was a guy who played at Kentucky. We've seen so many guards at Kentucky look a certain way at Kentucky. We know one here pretty well locally, and then you see him in the NBA for 5 seconds, and you're like, where was this the whole time? And there's a lot of that with Sheppard, right, in Houston?
Yeah, and also the opportunity there where that team needs a little juice at the guard positions, I think, and he can fit around Jalen Green. So, yeah, who'd you got?
I got Edey. He's the odds-on favorite right now, Zach Edey, the center out of Purdue. I think that with Memphis, he's just going to get such a pristine opportunity to produce. Like, he is just going to be a per 36 demon. He's probably only going to play 18 to 24 minutes. He's in excellent shape, by the way. Such a large man that you would think the conditioning is an issue with him. That was the underrated thing about him on Purdue. He just runs up and down the floor all the time. The spacing, as Lauren pointed out on the Burns and Gambo show earlier this week, is going to be a huge benefit to him. We'll kind of go through the next ones kind of close. I got a local wrinkle. You ready?
Yeah.
I got Bud for Coach of the Year.
I almost went there, but I don't know. The Suns would have to win like 60 games.
Well, I think if they just win 53 or 54, Dagnall is not going to win it back-to-back years in Oklahoma City. So then you look out east, and it's like, are you going to give it to Missoula or Tibbs? Like, Tibbs is the odds-on favorite right now for some reason. I don't really get that.
Yeah.
I got Bud. Who you got?
I got Taylor Jenkins. I just think Memphis is going this is kind of a leap of faith that they'll be healthy, but I think I just like him as a coach, and I think that team's going to be really good if they're healthy. I am going to bring up Jamal Mosley with Orlando because I think that team could make a big leap, and that's one where you pick a team that maybe isn't like a title contender, but like made a huge leap and has a great season.
The obvious one in the West as well is Ime Udoka. If they just win 46, 47 games and maybe get that 6th spot, perhaps, that's something that a lot of people are high on that Houston team. I mentioned this earlier in the show, 6th man of the year, I think is Malik Monk's award to lose. He probably should have won it last year. Nas got it. I love Nas, but predicting a huge year for Dante DiVincenzo. I got back-to-back 6th man of the year award winners for the Timberwolves.
I probably should have just picked Monk too, but I'm going to be an Arizona Wildcat homer and say Ben Mathurin, healthy season. Pacers take another step, and he's a big piece, and maybe he'll be a starter at some point somehow.
Been a rocky couple of years for him, but the foundation there with like Tyrese, Siakam, like they've really discovered a lot. I think they're an underrated team coming into the year. People kind of forget that, yes, the injuries that they were facing in the playoffs, but they showed a lot. I think that team's legit. Turner had an awesome year. Victor Wembanyama is a minus 145 favorite to win Defensive Player of the Year. You never see that for the awards, but I'm buying it. Wemby's my DPOY pick. Who you got?
I didn't look at the odds other than who was first, so I didn't see that he was that much. But yeah, I have him.
It's just like
they're
gonna win like 10 to 15 more games.
He could not improve in offense, and he's still that.
If Rudy doesn't have the Rudy season that he had last year, he probably would have won it last year. Most improved, I think this award is dumb, and it just comes down to who has the right narrative. It's probably going to be Wemby. I'm picking Wemby here too.
Wemby also, and then I had a Paolo Banchero.
Ooh,
because again, Magic. I think Magic. I'm buying the Magic hype a little bit, even though I was crap on them.
Houston, another team I'll mention maybe. So if they you get an Ime Udoka Coach of the Year combo with like Jalen Green or Jabari Smith, most improved player. West Finals for you.
Thunder. Oh, I have to make a call here. Versus, I think I'm going to pick the Suns.
Wow, we're matching. I have the Thunder over the Suns. That is what I have.
Yeah.
I'm not going to do games wise. You got Thunder over Suns as well. You're picking the Thunder winner.
Yep.
East.
Celtics versus Knicks.
That's what I have too. Who got winning it?
I have the Knicks.
What are we doing here? We never do this. We're matching.
We
up.
promised we didn't show this to one another.
I believe
we should have, because now
people are going like there's preseason montages going around. Like Mikal and OG defending together is going to be insane. Josh Hart's going to be on the floor with them a lot too. Jalen Brunson is one of the 3 or 4 best point guards in the world, and you got Cat with that, who we watched in that series. Man, he was defending Kevin Durant and Nikola Jokic pretty well.
I'm framing it as like a neutral basketball fan or whatever. Like, you don't like the Knicks to succeed because it's kind of funny, I think. Kind of the same as the Lakers, even though the Suns fans hate the Lakers. It's hard to not be like, I think the Knicks will be really fun to watch if you're a basketball person.
Truly think the West is completely wide open, though, and I think it could go so many different ways. Like, seeing Thunder in finals just looks so weird to me, thinking about where they were 2 to 3 years ago, but I'm in on it. My finals pick, I've got the Knicks over the Thunder, which means it's absolutely, like, that much good happening to the New York Knicks in my lifetime. I've never really seen it, and it won't happen, but I just think they're the most well-balanced team in the league, man. I love the way that they can do everything.
I'm picking Thunder, though.
Did you have fun?
I had fun. Thanks for having me.
Jamal, did you have fun?
I had a load of fun.
I had a load of fun as well, man. Thank you, everyone, so much for listening. Again, AZ Sports Night is the Twitter feed to keep up with us. We'll be back next week on Tuesday. Sun season, baby. I'm fired up. I hope you all are fired up well as well. Have a good evening, everyone. Goodbye.
See ya.